Hi, I'm Daniel, I'm a sleep physician, and if you're Insomnia, this channel is for you. In today's important episode, we're going to use the analogy of fixing your car to illustrate this confusing, kind of mind-twisting phenomenon of trying to fix a problem when the problem is your behavior of problem solving. Hey there, welcome back. Hope you're doing really well on this Wednesday. And before we start, talking about the analogy and the hopefully helpful tips that I want to share today, I want to talk about why I think this is so important. And it is because whether it is answering questions here or when I was sleep coaching on my app, which is not repaired yet, but it'll happen soon. Or when I'm working in clinic, once someone has gotten to a point where they kind of understand why they have trouble sleeping, they understand the basic physiology, only wakefulness can produce sleep, etc. After that initial stage, like 70% of the work is trying to get someone to stop problem solving. I think that it's so important. I think if you can get to a point where you stop problem solving, then you're basically home free. And before we get to the analogy, for those of you who are new to the channel, insomnia happens when that part of your brain that's there to protect you identifies sleeplessness as a threat, as something that is to be avoided and fixed and repaired. But what the brain doesn't realize is that it's a perceived threat. It's not a real physical threat. It's a perceived threat. It's not actually something that can harm you. And the real problem is that your safety mechanism inside your brain has identified sleeplessness as a threat. That's the real problem. So with that in mind, let's move on to this analogy that literally just came to me like 10 seconds ago. I was kind of preparing for what to say here. And so imagine that you have a car and that you've noticed that it's making some kind of funny sound that you're a little bit worried about. And it's still working, but you're a little bit concerned about this. So you kind of open the hood and you see that, okay, that thing doesn't really look right. But you don't know that much about cars, so you decide to read up. You grab the manual, let's say, and you start reading. And then you look back at the hood. Suddenly, it's like it's all shifted out of position. Now it looks actually worse. Like two things look that they're not functional, and things have kind of shifted places. So you're like, well, that's weird. You keep reading the manual, and the next time you look in the hood, it's like the same thing. Like, so three things are off, and this thing looks weird. It's completely confusing. So you decide, okay, let's stop trying to figure it out, and let's actually try to do things. So you kind of adjust the thing here. Well, then this other thing breaks, and this other thing shifts, and you adjust that thing, and sooner than you know it, it's a complete mess, So in this example, this is an example of where the act of problem solving has, if not created, then definitely made a tiny problem into a huge one. And that's how chronic insomnia develops. Is again, your brain has identified sleeplessness as a threat, and it takes you into the direction of trying to figure it out. Why do I have this? What the brain doesn't realize is that every time you kind of reinforce the notion that sleeplessness is a threat, every time you try to figure it out, it becomes a bigger threat in your brain. It becomes a bigger problem. So with that said, how do you use this? I had written something to myself. How do you use this insight to your advantage? Well, as you can see, the trick is to kind of stop the behavior of problem solving, which is easier said than done. But I feel like if you understand that the behavior of problem solving is the problem, then that is in itself a big step. And now I remember what I was talking about was more practical examples. What do I really mean by this? Well, it is questions like, what do you think of melatonin? There's kind of trying to figure it out, considering a tweak. It's what do you think of blue blocking lenses? Same thing. Should I go to bed half an hour earlier? which, you know, all those things, that example could be a good question, but it is also part of like problem solving, you know. Could I have, you know, should I have a sleep study? You know, all those things are like, they part of like trying to figure it out and part of planning the next step. This is part of problem solving. And you know, you hear me all the time, almost obsessively talk about set it and forget it. You know, choose like a time to get up in the morning. Don't go to bed, maybe like, let's say, don't go to bed 7 hours before that time. So you get up at 6, don't go to bed before 11, let's say. And other than that, forget it. And when I say forget it, it's all about like, try not to problem solve, you know. So that's the key. So I think I hope this episode was helpful to you. I felt like I have not figured out how to really word this perfectly yet, but I think it's still important to start talking about this. So you'll hear more about this as we move forward, but hope this is helpful. And with that said, any questions, please leave comments. Love those. And for those of you who are thinking like, oh, well, if I leave a comment, Daniel's just going to say that I'm problem solving. Not at all. I love answering questions, whether it is on this channel or as a coach or in clinic. I absolutely love it. But that said, I also, the goal here is of course to help you. So I want to share that the problem solving behavior is the problem. So that said, yeah, leave a comment or email me, daniel@insomniainsight.co, and I'll be back tomorrow with our guest, Ella Mermter. Until then, bye-bye.